the Parks Police in Washington, D.C. chose to violate the rights of citizens by arresting them for freedom of expression. That was a little controversy with the dance party. Outside the Texas State Capitol, there is a monstrous rally for a bill by Representative David Simpson that would ban invasive pat-downs by the TSA in the state of Texas. If you're not aware of this bill or what's been going on with the TSA, let me just give you a quick rundown. The Transportation Security Administration was started after 9/11 to keep us safe while flying. What's happened is they've been gradually making flying more and more complicated. They've been making it more a pain in the butt to fly. We now have to take our shoes off, our belts off. Recently, body scanners have been added. These body scanners are likely to cause cancer, according to some research. I think it was Stanford that put that out. They emit some very dangerous radiation, and they were put out in response to the underwear bomber. Now, it's known that these body scanners would even have stopped the underwear bomber. Meanwhile, the underwear bomber didn't even have a passport. He was flying out of Holland, I believe. He didn't even have a passport, and yet he got through security. Perhaps if we just required people to have passports, we wouldn't have had the underwear bomber. Just ridiculous. So if you choose to opt out of the body scanner, maybe you're pregnant, maybe you've already had cancer, maybe you're on chemo right now, don't want exposure to the radiation, maybe you don't want your young child being exposed to this radiation. We have no idea what the long-term effects are of the radiation of the body scanners. You have to go through a physical pat-down where the TSA agent puts his or her hands all over your body, including on your genitals, inside your pants, to see if you're smuggling anything. Just outrageous. Now this without a reasonable suspicion that you're smuggling anything or that you've committed a crime. According to the Fourth Amendment, there will be no searches or seizures without a reasonable suspicion that a crime has occurred, and or without a warrant, and no warrant shall be issued without probable cause describing the places to be searched and things to be seized. So how is it that the TSA can search our physical bodies, not just, run us through a metal detector? I think, that's okay. That's not too invasive. Are you carrying metal? Metal can be used to hijack a plane. I get that. Even though we lock the doors now to the cockpit, you can't get in there anymore, but still we don't want people carrying metal on planes. So why, if you refuse a body scan because you don't want the radiation, why is that reasonable suspicion? And where was the reasonable suspicion to make you go through the body scanner in the first place? These body scanners basically produce a naked picture of us in black and white. Why is that acceptable? So David Simpson wrote a bill, HB 1937, which said that the TSA could not perform a pat-down of travelers unless there was a reasonable suspicion that they had committed a crime or that they were smuggling something. So basically, it restated the Fourth Amendment. It said you can't do these searches in violation of the Fourth Amendment. So what happened? Well, it passed the House unanimously. Go Texas! Our Texas representatives said, all of them said, yes, we want to ban invasive pat-downs in Texas airports. Once it got to the Senate, not only did the TSA directly lobby, the TSA sent agents to come talk to senators. Please show me somewhere in the Constitution where it says the federal government has the right to influence state policy by sending representatives through its different agencies. There's no clause in there that says that. So I would consider that act unconstitutional. Secondly, the Department of Justice sent out a memo filled with falsehoods that said that if Texas enacted this law, that the United States government would issue a no-fly zone over Texas. The United Nations issued a no-fly zone over Libya. And now the U.S. is threatening Texas with a no-fly zone? They're threatening to ground all planes in Texas because we're not allowing TSA agents to touch the genitals of our children and our grandmothers? Are you kidding me? That is such a huge threat. And it worked. The Texas Senate totally backed out, and the bill never came up for a vote. But now, Texans for Accountable Government and other organizations have been garnering support for this bill, and they held this huge rally on Saturday to support Representative Simpson's bill. These are now HB 41 and SB 29. That's House Bill 41, Senate Bill 29. These bills would ban the TSA pat-downs for the special session. Now, it's all up to the governor whether or not he's going to allow the legislature to vote on these bills. He gets to decide what goes on in the special session. And this rally was so successful that it actually made Fox national news. We got national news coverage right here in Austin for the TSA body scanner bill.
That would make intrusive pat-downs a crime are actually out in force today, rallying at the state capitol in Texas. The group Texans for Accountable Government wants a bill that would stop pat-downs to be revisited during the special session. It would ban pat-downs at airport security lines and bring criminal charges for TSA agents if they were to touch someone inappropriately. The bill passed unanimously in the House, but Republicans withdrew their support, fearing a lawsuit from the federal government and the possibility of flight cancellations in Texas, so the bill died in the Senate. Well, supporters believe those searches violate their constitutional rights. Downs. Legislators in other states are chiming in too. Republican Utah State Representative Carl Rimmer intends to introduce legislation in January that would ban pat-downs without probable cause by Transportation Security Administration workers. He says, quote, "There's only two places citizens are subjected to this type of intrusive search, at airports and jails, and that should be chilling." And
what's really interesting is that government officials don't want to go through the pat down. Those that have the power to say, no, you don't need to pat me down, I'm a government official, they don't want to go through it, yet they're willing to allow the citizens to be subjected to these invasive, unconstitutional searches while they're not subject to it. It's just very hypocritical. So here's a great example. Hillary Clinton, Bilderberger, Hillary Clinton.
But would you submit to one of these pat-downs?
Not if I could avoid it. No, I mean, who would?
Wow. She's laughing at the idea of going through one of these pat-downs. This is really no laughing matter. Here are just a few instances of abuse by the TSA and the horrendous experience that some have had going through a TSA pat-down.
But passenger Thomas Sawyer says there was nothing funny about his pat-down at Detroit's Metro Airport. He says it was so aggressive it spilled his urine bag, a result of cancer surgery. He had to travel in a urine-soaked shirt and pants.
I was just mortified. My underwear had been dropped to the floor. I'm standing in front of him with my underwear and had to ask to pull it up.
A child is stripped to the waist as he's searched at an airport by TSA agents.
It's ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
The Transportation Security Administration refused to allow a 4-year-old disabled boy to pass through airport security without first taking off his leg braces. The 4-year-old was born prematurely. He has malformed ankles and low muscle tone in his legs, and he was just beginning to walk at the time this happened.
She put her full hand on my breast and said, "What is this?" And I said, "It's a prosthesis because I've had breast cancer." And she goes, "Well, you'll need to show me that."
Kathy was asked to remove her prosthetic breast as a flight attendant on her way to work.
It was just so horrific.
Can you imagine the shame and humiliation she must have felt taking off her prosthetic breast to this and showing this TSA agent her body, which undoubtedly she must feel extremely self-conscious about, having gone through cancer and having her breast sliced off her body to save her life? This is what people are being subjected to. And where are the results? Don't tell me that we haven't had a terrorist attack since 9/11, therefore this stuff works. Well, do you know what? Since 9/11, I've had really fast internet access. Are we going to say fast internet access is the reason that we haven't had any terrorist attacks? It's just baloney. And there have been evidently attempts by people who don't have passports that somehow get through security and sneak in bombs in their underwear.
The underwear bomber appears in federal court in Detroit. Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalib is accused of trying to blow up a plane over Detroit on Christmas Day 2009. Fox News' Amy Lang has more from outside federal court, where a trial date has now been set. Amy.
Yes, a trial date has been set, but it was actually more interesting to hear from a couple of the passengers who showed up here at court today, who have a very interesting theory about what really happened.
The U.S. government escorted him through security without a passport, and we believe gave him an intentionally defective bomb.
It's a startling allegation from two local attorneys who were on board the 2009 Christmas Day flight to Detroit when Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalib tried to blow up a bomb hidden in his underwear. Kurt and Lori Haskell think the U.S. government was behind the whole thing.
It was intentional, and it went this far to further the war on terror, to get body scanners in the airports, to increase the TSA's budget, to renew the Patriot Act, and whatever other reasons you want to list.
The Haskells say in Amsterdam, before boarding the flight to Detroit, they witnessed Abdul Muttalib arguing with a ticket agent at the gate because he didn't have a passport, when a man in a tan suit with an American accent intervened.
The ticket agent did not want to allow Muttalib on the flight, and this man was very insistent of it, and then she referred them to a manager down the hallway.
But this whole notion of we must be doing something right because there haven't been successful terrorist attacks is just silly. Absolutely ridiculous. And what's really shameful is that the terrorists are winning this battle because our own government is eroding our civil rights, our right to travel without violations of the Fourth Amendment. That is being eroded when we go to the airport. One economist did an analysis of how much it costs for everyone to take off their shoes at the airport, estimating 1 minute, take your shoes and put it back on, the number of people fly. It's something like 5 years or so of time wasted every year of people traveling, just putting on and taking off their shoes. Years and years of time are being taken from us. It's just absolutely ridiculous. If you weren't upset already, here are 2 more examples of TSA abuses.
Sure. He yelled at me, "No, get the belt off. I told you to get the belt off." So I took the belt off. He ran his hands down over and pulled the pants down. They went down around my ankles.
At that point, Perry was standing in his underwear in public view. He asked to see a supervisor. That made things worse.
She was yelling, "I have power, I have power, I have power."
The power to stop him from flying to Florida with his wife that day to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary.
Police officer, I think she molested me. I want a police officer now! No! I want a police officer! She just molested me! For God's sake, somebody help me!
Let's listen to what some of these speakers had to say at the rally this past Saturday. Speakers included the author of the bill, Representative David Simpson, radio host Adam McManus, liberty activist Catherine Bleich, and radio host Jack Blood.
The man, the myth, the legend, Representative David Simpson. Thank you so much for coming to support our Constitution. It's about liberty. Freedom of travel, freedom to access public buildings and transportation without being molested. Touching our private parts is being made a condition of travel. It's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. And I am not alone in the Texas House. 94 other House members co-authored HB 1937. But at the 11th hour, the Department of Justice sent an inaccurate letter full of falsehoods threatening a no-fly zone if this legislation was enacted. That is right. This is a come-and-take-it moment. That's right.
Here are some other speakers from the rally on Saturday.
It's rather ironic. The liberals say the government must stay out of our bedroom in the privacy of our own home, but why aren't those same liberals saying the government must stay out of our underwear in a public place with dozens of witnesses?
I want to see our sexual assault survivors protected, our children protected.